Hello and welcome back to Reflections Live. My name is Brandon and I'll be your moderator. Our guests this week are Corey, Bianca, and Connor. I'd like to remind everyone that we do this live stream every Monday, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 3 p.m. Eastern Time. If you have any questions for our guests, please comment below and we'll answer your questions live on the stream. If you want more information about recovery or finding treatment, please send us a message and we will gladly speak with you. We have more resources and information available at www.detoxtorehab.com.
Bunch of weird bruises that I can't explain, but other than that, it was good.
Okay, all right. Connor.
I forgot everything I was thinking when you said that. It was good. Meditation, Sunday relaxation.
That's it.
Yeah, pretty much.
I got a massage and then woke up the next morning and slept on my neck wrong. So that was pretty good.
Right on.
Spoke at a meeting, which was a lot of fun. Might have gotten a new sponsee, so
Cool.
yeah, that's about it. What about the reflection?
All right, so we'll go right into the daily reflection here, and it's titled A Daily Tune-Up. Every day is a day when we must carry the vision of our higher power's will into all of our activities. How do I maintain my spiritual condition? For me, it's quite simple. On a daily basis, I ask my higher power to grant me the gift of sobriety for that day. I've talked to many alcoholics who have gone back to drinking, and I always ask them, did you pray for sobriety the day you took your first drink? Not one of them said yes. As we practice step 10 and try to keep our houses in order on a daily basis, we have to acknowledge that if we ask for a daily reprieve, it will be granted.
So, okay, I'll start. I was talking with Corey before we did the stream, and he brought to my attention that, it's not all that you do is ask your higher power for the gift of sobriety. You have to actually do work on a day-to-day basis. I know for me, I can't just sit and pray to God and be like, hey, help me stay sober today. I actually need to I need to go to meetings. I need to work with other people. I need to give back what was freely given to me. And it's not just gonna work if I ask for it. That's it reminds me of when I was in my addiction and I would, ask my higher power for a break. I'd be like, yo, please help me out. I promise I'm not going to get loaded anymore. I'm going to stop doing heroin. And, I could ask for that as many times as I wanted, but if I didn't put in the work and effort to stay sober and for good things to happen to me, it just wasn't going to happen. And then it says right here, did you pray for sobriety the day you took your first drink? I know I didn't. I wouldn't keep doing what I did. I wouldn't keep doing heroin if I didn't love it. And, I definitely didn't pray for sobriety, but when I did, I had to take the certain steps to get there. It didn't just come to me overnight.
Yeah. And like you were saying, right, when you started, someone told me a while back that if faith without works is dead, then willingness without action is fantasy. And that's kind of what you were talking about. It's easy to pray for sobriety. It's not that easy to work for it.
Right.
And it talks about it when as I practice step 10, there's a little more to step 10 than just praying for sobriety.
Mm-hmm.
There's watching for my own character defects. There's dealing with those defects when they come up. There's bringing this to other people. There's trying to help other people. And it sounds like kind of a lot of stuff to do, and really it's very small things on a moment-by-moment basis. It turns out I'm not screwing up all the time.
Right.
But when this stuff happens, I have to be able to do that work. And as long as I'm willing to do it when it comes my way, then I get that daily reprieve.
Mm-hmm.
And like you were saying, did I pray for sobriety on the day? Because I've relapsed a handful of times.
Same.
And I absolutely didn't, because by that time, I had already stopped doing everything else.
Right.
I didn't get high the day I stopped doing everything. It was I stopped doing one thing and then another and another and another, and then it was just months of being sober and miserable.
Mm-hmm.
So of course I didn't pray. That was the only solution I knew, was to get high.
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
You're talking about months of being miserable before you got high, and that's like if you're lucky.
Yeah,
I think
that's true.
the the slope is very slippery, and as soon as I stop watching my behavior and doing these things, like it's just a matter of time, you know, and my defects pop up, and it happens really quickly. It says it's quite simple for me, and then he says, right, and that because he's talking about prayer, how do I maintain my spiritual condition? For me, it's quite simple. On a daily basis, I ask my higher power to grant me the gift of sobriety for that day. If that's all I had to do, I would have gotten sober a long time ago.
Yeah.
I mean, right? If that's all there was, then anybody with a drug problem could just pray and be good, right? I had to take lots of time to develop a relationship with a higher power that I actually believe in, right? That I know is real because of the experiences I've had in my life, because of the work I've put in and seen the results. Only praying every morning doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other things that I have to do. So, and I think we all agree on that.
What are some of the other things that you have to do?
I mean, the 12 steps is definitely kind of the foundation, but in addition to that, right, I go to meetings. I try to reach out my hand out wherever I can, and that's not always, but I definitely do the best to, right, be aware of the opportunities that I have and take them when I recognize them. And there's plenty that I miss, right? I'm sure tons just go right over my head, or I'm thinking about myself or whatever it is, but when I do have the chance and I am aware of it, I say yes and I do those things, right? Like speaking at meetings, or sponsoring a guy who needs some help, or any of those kind of things. So.
Yeah, I agree. What about the other reflection? How's that one going?
All right, so the next one, or just for today, is called The Truth, and it goes like this. Everything we know is subject to revision, especially what we know about the truth. Many of us thought we could recognize the truth. We believed the truth was one thing, certain and unchanging, which we could grasp easily and without question. The real truth, however, was that we often couldn't see the truth if it hit us square in the face. Our disease colored everything in our lives, especially our perception of the truth. In fact, what we knew about the truth nearly killed us. Before we could begin to recognize the truth, we had to switch our allegiances from our addiction to a higher power, the source of all that is good and true. The truth has changed as our faith in a higher power has grown. As we've worked the steps, our entire lives have begun to change through the healing power of the principles of recovery. In order to open the door for that change, we had to surrender our attachment to an unchanging and rigid truth. The truth becomes purer and simpler each time we encounter it. And just as the steps work in our lives every day, if we allow them, our understanding of the truth may change each day as we grow. Just for today, I will open my eyes and my heart to changes brought about by the steps. With an open mind, I can understand the truth in my life today. The truth, you know? I think that's just like most of what I heard is the truth. These things bother me sometimes because they're so vague. So I like to try to think of examples if I can. And in my own life, the truth that's changed for me, right, originally was that I'm good, right? Like I'm okay, like I can get sober if I want to, or if I try to. And I definitely found out that that's not the truth. Right? And that's not the case in my life. I had to reach a point where I either got sober or, you know, I stayed in jail or I died. And that's real, and I had to depend on something else other than myself so that could happen, so that I could stay sober. And I don't know what else is, that's the major one, at least for me in my life, where I can see that the truth has changed, that I can't take care of myself in a sense, where I have to rely on something greater than myself.
Yeah.
Were you going to say something?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. All right, cool. So before I forget, I wanted to say what I had to say. And where it says, just for today, I will open my eyes and my heart to changes brought about by the steps. What I get out of this reading, just because of that sentence right there, was gratitude. Like, I need to open my eyes and be grateful for what the steps have done in my life, or I'm slowly going to lose what I have. Like, if I don't open my eyes and like look at the things that I have, the little things like my family back, the ability to wake up in the morning and not be sick, and a shower and food, and just all these little things that the steps have given me, then I'm just going to go back to just doing what I did best, and that was getting high. And I am so grateful for the steps, because me and my family, when we go camping in places, we sit around the campfire and tell each other what we're grateful for. And I think it's super awesome. And I always, like, recently, and we've done this once since I've been in recovery, and I definitely said, you know, the 12-step program, because without it, I wouldn't be able to be there with them, sitting around the campfire and just hanging out and having fun and just saying what we're grateful for. And it's just the little things, you know, roof over my head, a bed to sleep in, my family, love, happiness, and just a life. So, yeah.
Yeah. I noticed, like, because it talks about the truth changing, and that was how it happened to me. Because there's what's actually true, and then what I perceive to be true.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at first, like you were saying, like, this isn't a problem I could stop if I want to. Like, this is just fun.
That was the truth to you.
Yeah, that was.
You meant it.
I
and-
believed
Right.
that. You know,
Yeah.
and then the way I saw it, there were a lot of people who were really just trying to screw with my life, and that was what I believed. But the truth was, they were trying to help me.
Yeah.
And before I could understand any of that, I had to go through and, like, actually look at my life and the part I played in all these. And I had to be open to the fact that maybe everything I believed wasn't true. And one of those things, like, and it still comes up, you know, that what I see as the truth is not actually what's true.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody pointed that out to me, and I don't know how I put this together, but somebody said, you know, life is good whether I perceive it to be or not. You know, no matter what's going on in my life, that's probably not personal. I'm not being personally attacked. Like, that's just, life is weird sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I can either choose to see that as an opportunity to grow, which is probably true,
Mm-hmm.
or I can play the victim and make that somebody else's fault and a problem that I absolutely can't deal with.
Right.
You know?
I did that all the time. I know. I did for sure.
Like, being the victim causes me a lot of unsolvable problems, but if the truth is I played a part in all of the things that happened to me, there's something I can do about those things.
Yeah.
There's a level of responsibility I can take. There are things I can do to fix that and prevent it from happening in the future, you know?
I agree.
It's so funny what gets filtered, right, between, like, what really happens and what I really
yeah.
see, and then and then what happens in here about 5 minutes later, and I'm angry about things that like never even happened or that I just made up.
Mm-hmm.
That's just that's what happens to me. I don't know.
No, that's what happens to me too.
Just standing in the shower having a fake argument with somebody
Yeah.
who's not even attacking you.
And then you're all upset with them for
That's real.
no reason
Like,
at
you know
all.
what? That guy last week, he pissed me off. He did. Oh my god.
Does anyone else have anything to say on any of the readings?
I'm good on those. I don't like those today.
Okay. Why don't you like them?
It's too much thinking.
Too much thinking. It's a Monday morning, I
Yeah.
guess. Do we have any questions?
Well, we do. We do have a couple questions here. Let's start off with a short one. This person writes, "It's hard to quit drinking when I think about the fact that I can never drink again for the rest of my life. Did you guys think that it was possible to get sober before finding recovery?"
Okay. I knew it was possible to get sober. I didn't think, I knew, and that was because I have experience with the man who raised me. I know I've said this on the stream before, but he has 34 years clean and sober, and I knew that it was possible, like, where he came from to where he is today. It's a miracle. And you need to think, not for the rest of your life, just for today, because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know what's going to happen in 5 minutes from now. And you just really need to sit there and, take it one day, 1 minute, 1 second at a time.
I didn't drink very much, but I remember having this conversation, the same one, I can never drink again ever, with my sponsor at the time. And I brought up, and I've heard it before, well, what about like drinking champagne on my wedding day? To which he responded, like, dude, you're unemployed, living in a halfway house, wearing clothes you pulled out of a donation bin. Your wedding day is a long way off. And part of the reason I was so worried about that, never being able to drink, never being able to get high again, is I had this intense fear that life was just going to be incredibly boring. And it hasn't been. For the most part, it's been a lot of fun. I've learned a lot of new things. Some parts of it have been absolutely terrifying, but those were cool too because they led to really funny stories.
Right.
But nothing has been that boring, and I actually kind of look forward to the boring days where somebody asks me, "Hey, what did you do today?" It's like, I did laundry and took a nap. It was amazing.
Yeah. And I feel like I didn't really have fun when I was out there doing dope. It was just, I was miserable constantly. And even if there was, throughout high school I would go to parties and stuff, but I was on the outside I was having fun, but deep down I felt like shit. I was depressed, and I just wanted an excuse to kind of get out of my head for a little bit, but I was just going to feel the same as I did. When I woke up in the morning, I was still going to feel like shit. So
my fear, as far as we're talking about, of never drinking again, or the reason that I was afraid of, you know what I mean? I was afraid of doing it again. I was afraid of not doing it again. Just so much fear when you get sober. And I think the reason that I was afraid of that is because I associate drinking and using drugs with being okay, with just feeling all right, where I can sit down and hang out and then have a normal conversation. I just know. I don't know what level I knew that when I got sober, but I just knew that I'm not okay without something in me, without some sort of substance in my body.
Sorry.
And that's just the way I felt, and I didn't think that I would be all right sober. I didn't know what fun was. I knew what the illusion of fun was, and that was drinking and getting high, and that's not the truth, right? The truth changed.
The truth. Do we have any more questions?
Absolutely. So this next one's got a bit of a scenario with it, but I'll go ahead and see if I can get through it.
I love scenarios.
When you were a teenager, if you were or had been using at the time, is there anything that your parents could have told you that may have prevented you from continuing on using? I think my teenage son is experimenting and inhaling different household cleaning supplies, looking for a high. Getting angry with him probably won't work. I want him to stop for himself, not out of fear of me. Is that even possible? My thought is to have him research it online about effects and chemicals on the brain and body and then write about it, maybe if he sees what he's doing to himself or could do to himself. And I'm hoping you can help a dad and his son sidestep years of struggling. Thank you.
That made me emotional.
Unfortunately, with teenagers, based on my own experience having been one, they're kind of headstrong jerks.
Yeah, I don't think
in the huffing household chemicals and stuff, that's unfortunately really dangerous. But I know when I was 14, 15, I didn't really believe any danger was coming my way. I was invincible at 14.
Oh yeah.
And that's the hard part, is there's nothing anyone can say
or do
could have said to me that would have convinced me they knew what they were talking about at the time. So I don't think there's any way to sidestep it other than it might end up being an argument,
I feel that you just need to let him have his own experience. My parents used to say things to me, and they would bring me to meetings, and it just, nothing worked because I didn't want to change. Like, you can tell me I was going to die, and it might have scared me a little bit at the time, but then I would just go back to thinking of how that substance made me feel, and there was nothing they could really do to make my mind change. And sometimes it's necessary for someone to have their own experience and something to happen, like them getting sick from it, or jail time, or, you know, just, I don't know, don't enable it, and just be there when they're ready.
Yeah, I mean, don't enable it is probably the best advice. Like, don't feed into it. I mean, if the kid is what I am, right, or what we are, or has the disease that we have, it's gonna have to play out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the resources being there earlier can help, right? Like, having an idea of what recovery is a lot earlier in your life is a lot better.
Right.
But there's, like, if there's something you could say to somebody, like, it would have been said to me and I would have got sober.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've watched family cry in my face, right, begging and pleading me to not get high again, and I did it anyway.
Right.
That's how it goes.
You don't really, you're only thinking of yourself. Like, I know for me at least, I did care, but there was nothing I could do to stop it. Like, because I wanted that high so much. I cared about how I was hurting them, but my love for the drugs were much stronger than my love for the family at that point in time.
And like you were saying, just being made aware of recovery early on, I don't know of anyone who has been harmed in any way by being sent into like AA, NA, any of that when they didn't need it.
Right.
Like, it never hurt anyone to go to that when it was unnecessary. But I know a lot of people who didn't survive not finding it when they absolutely needed it.
Right.
You know?
True.
That's good. That's smart.
All right, so I kind of have a follow-up question. It's not from the same person, but it's a question we had last week, and I feel like it does go along with the question that was just asked. On a previous stream, one of our viewers named Rhonda asked, how do you help someone when they won't be honest with you?
You
Unfortunately, right off
can't.
the bat, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Right off the bat, helping someone who's in my position when I was still out there using, or Connor and Bianca, helping them will look to them a lot like you're trying to screw with their lives.
Yeah.
You know, if I couldn't be honest with my parents, I couldn't live in their houses. They stopped supporting me. They stopped letting me do what I needed to do, or what I thought I needed to do, you know? And, you know, it eventually broke me down to where, like, the lies weren't holding together anymore. It's really hard to show up at your parents' house, like, wearing the same dirty clothes you were wearing a month ago when you showed up, all shot out, like, no, things are good, I got a job, you know? Like,
I got a job.
they don't believe any of that, and I know it was heartbreaking for them to have to do that, but that's what it took for them to help me, was for them to stop enabling me, you know, because they thought that was helping for a long time to keep me going. And then when they stopped doing that, that actually, it didn't feel like help, but
Right.
it helped push me in the direction I needed to go.
Because it made things harder on you. And going along with what you just said, my family, after I was sent off to my first rehab, if I was getting loaded, I couldn't be in the house. But they would still, if I called them and asked them for money, they'd say no. If I asked them, you know, can you get me a hotel for the night, they'd say no. But if I asked them just to talk because I didn't know what to do, they'd still say yes. And they'd still be there and support me and be like, you know what, you can get through this. You just have to try and give me reassurance that there is a better life out there. And yeah, I mean, you can't do what Corey said, like, you can help them, but in a way that they feel you're kind of ruining their life.
I think just wait, right? You can't force them to do anything. Just be ready. You know, like we were talking about, have the resources available. Have a phone number to call right? When this person calls you and finally, I mean, I hope it is like, you know what, I can't do it. Nobody wants to be around me. I smell because I've been homeless. Whatever. Like, and when they're ready to get honest and they're like, I can't live my life like this. That's when you can take that opportunity and call the phone number that you have and try to get this person some help. I mean, just being ready.
Yeah.
Being ready for them is the only thing that I can really say would work for sure if it does.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll go and move on to the next question. I think we have time for one more. Another scenario one. I've been working a fantastic job, best I've ever had, for about 2.5 months. In that time, I've kept my addiction completely hidden. Over the course of that time, my habit went from a moderate issue to a major problem. I'm expecting 2 or more weeks of physical withdrawal once I stop using, and I've realized that it will be essentially impossible to ill it out while still going to work every day. My concern is obviously over the security of my job. If I decide to go to rehab for some period of time, I can't lose this job. I already lost one job to my addiction, and I just can't bring myself to lose another, especially for trying to do the right thing. Does anyone have a similar experience or who can offer some insight?
I hate to say it, but if you're not willing to lose the job to get sober, you're
Bingo.
eventually going to lose the job anyway.
Yeah.
That being said, you don't have to lose the job to get sober. The first thing I would recommend is this person go talk to their supervisor, their boss, somebody, and like tell them, this is the problem, this is what I'm willing to do to get help for it. Can you work with me? Is there any way I can keep my job if I go and take care of this?
Yeah.
And that's really the only thing there is for it, is hoping that your employer will work with you on this one. Because I know I couldn't just up and disappear from my job for a couple of weeks and then show back up like, oh no, I was dealing with this catastrophic addiction that like almost ruined my life.
Right.
Probably should have told you that up front,
Be honest.
It's uncomfortable, and I get that, but like the best way to go about it is to be honest up front. You don't have to billboard it through the whole company. Just talk to one person. Hopefully they're understanding enough that like they don't need to discuss this with everyone you work with. And just things will work out the way they're supposed to, generally. But like I said, if you're unwilling to give something up to get sober, you're going to lose that in the process of getting high.
Yep. I agree with what. Bingo.
Yeah.
Clap, clap. That's
Golf clap for that one.
All right, so we'll end with this question, if that's all right. Is it possible to get sober or clean without going through treatment or working the steps?
It's possible, but I don't know how to do it that way.
I've seen it done.
Yeah, it's absolutely possible. The treatment is always good just because it gives you a break. There's the medical detox, which makes it much less painful. I've kicked in detoxes, I've kicked in jails, I've kicked at home, and only one of those didn't completely suck,
Yeah.
And like treatment, it was that like month or so of being safe and separated. Enough time for my head to like actually clear a little bit before I went back out. And like the 12 steps are one of the more effective ways to stay sober, but they're not the only way. That's just how my opinion on the matter.
I think you need to ask yourself what you're going to do, though. Like, that might not make sense, but if you're not going to work the 12 steps and you're not going to go to meetings or go through treatment, you need to find something, like go to the gym or get a hobby or do something that's going to keep your mind, like, yeah. I don't know.
I don't think it matters like where you are when you get sober, right? There's just a set of things that you need to do and take care of, and stick to taking those actions, and you'll be all right, generally. I mean, detox and treatment is an incredible help with that. Just because it does give you that time, it gives you the break, and it allows you to clear your head, like you said, and you don't really have many other options when you're in treatment other than to try and work on yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, but I've seen plenty of people who can do that, not in treatment, not in detox, but it's rare. It just is a matter of knowing if you're going to continue those actions. And for me, I couldn't. You know, I had to go somewhere because I cannot keep myself accountable for the life of me, right? I had to build some sort of foundation, and that's where treatment came in for me. So.
All right, so we are actually out of time here. I want to thank our guests for joining us today and thank everyone for tuning in. We do this again every week, Monday at 12 p.m. PST and 3 p.m. ET. If you have any questions for our guests, please comment below in the future live streams, and we'll answer them live on the stream. If you want more information about recovery or finding treatment, please send us a message and we will gladly speak with you. We have more information available at www.detoxtorehab.com. Thank you guys so much. Have a good week.